joins the newly constructed Grand Prix circuit, forming the 25 kilometers that Michael and Roddy will have to know so well. Machinery available. Germany's best are here, their names boldly visible. With local honour at stake, the factory teams spare little cost in their effort to be the best in front of their thousands of fans. The Germans take this race very seriously. Special TV and radio transmitters broadcast uninterrupted race information locally. It's a mixed bag of European Group A production cars and the slower Group N class vehicles. With Wolfgang at the wheel first, the Kadett gets right down to the job of proving to the timekeepers its worthy place on the starting grid. Each of the three drivers must do their time in the car in order to claim their qualifying position on the grid. Next out is Mike Briggs, who soon has his times down to what Wolfgang had set as a target. Besides setting good times, the drivers have to evaluate the car so that Rolf can set about making any of the necessary adjustments.
It was scary, if nothing else. There's so many cars on the circuit at the moment, it's just crazy. I'm happy. I think we've done the second quickest time so far, and I did it on a bad lap. I had traffic right the way through the lap. I think I can take another 7 or 8 seconds off of my time.
And Roddy's out there now, is he?
Roddy's out there now. Once he's finished, then we're bringing the car in, we're going to check it over and get it ready for the night session.
Roddy Turner keeps the pressure on, ignoring the darkening conditions and the generally chaotic traffic on the track.
With flat tires and bent suspension and bits falling off them, it's amazing. It's like a rally. Roddy, how was it? Very exciting. There are a lot of accidents, a lot of oil on the circuit now as people have been blowing up. There are a lot of slow cars trying to make their way back to the pit so that they can get their repairs done, with flat tires and deranged suspensions. Otherwise, very exciting. It's first time we've been on the Grand Prix track since we got here, and it does take a bit of getting used to. However, it's really nice out there.
Now, Michael said the traffic was a bit horrific. Did you find that as well?
The traffic is unbelievable. I mean, there's slow cars and there are fast cars. We seem to be going quite quickly because we passed a lot of cars and we didn't have too much of a traffic problem with the faster cars coming up to take us. But a lot of the guys weren't expecting us to pass them and they wouldn't give you quite enough room to get through. So some of the times we had to go over the curbs a little bit to get past.
Each second counts as car 151 jockeys for a position on the timekeeper's computer screens. The drivers have done well and the team finds itself in a very creditable 67th position at the end of the Friday practice session. A gusty cold wind lashes at the ring as Saturday dawns from a bleak grey sky. The weather does very little to keep the thousands of motorsport fans away from this, the biggest production car event in the world. Out and around the racetrack, the campers slowly rise, emerging from tents and caravans in preparation for the action of the day ahead. With the race still some 6 hours away, parties from the night before are continued as a way of passing the time. Keeping warm German style involves buzzsaws and big fires. 12 kilometers away, activities of a more intense nature are underway, from cleaning and polishing to complete engine transplants before the 4 p.m. start. Rolf orders a change of gear ratios for the Kadett, a task which helps pass the time for the crew. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the officials start lining up the 180 cars which have qualified to start the race. Divided into 3 groups of 60 cars, 151 will start 7th into the second group. With just minutes before the start, Roddy Turner belts up. Roddy has the responsibility of getting the car through the first hour and a half of the 24-hour race. As the cars cruise around the circuit on their warm-up laps, the sound of the big BMW M3s bring the crowd to their feet. Any vantage point is sought, the spectators now 4 deep at the fences. Roddy guides the Kadett through the bends and straights of the Nordschleife. Around him, the most competitive cars in their class. Outside every inch of the track is a strong point of support for one make of car or another. As the cars accelerate from the rolling start, it's the 3 BMWs of Hager, Winkelhock and Revalja that streak into the lead. Behind them, the works Opel Omega with Streisek at the wheel locks into a tow. Roddy at the wheel of the yellow Kadett finds himself in a precarious situation as Michael Schaefer rams his Kadett into the side of 151. Roddy does well to hold the car, which is thrown into a violent sideways slide.
1
At Adenauer Forest, the works BMW set a thundering pace. On an open track, the drivers not yet hassled with passing the slower traffic. The second phase of Group A cars include the Van Gartzen Porsche and the Bayer Ford Sierra Cosworth. 5 kilometers later, Roddy has some space to work in. The South African now able to concentrate on the job at hand, to keep the car on the road and finish this demanding 24-hour race. Behind him, the competition presses on, their intentions much the same. Towards the end of his session, Roddy has pulled the team into 61st position overall, having gained 6 places. With just over 1 hour behind them, they now lie third in their class. Michael is next in line to drive. With 10 laps gone, Roddy brings the Kadett in a lap early, avoiding the traffic about to hit the pits. While the mechanics set about their various tasks, the drivers assist each other with the seat belts. The soft compound front tires are changed, their job now done. Replaced by a harder compound, the Kadett should be able to stay out longer. With a fresh driver, fresh front rubber, and a full tank of gas, Michael rejoins the race. At Beerseifen, the cars drop down to the lowest part of the circuit. The estimated 180,000 spectators around the 25 kilometers of racetrack are kept abreast of the situation by the PA system that spans the full length of the track. Michael and Roddy have adapted to the track with ease, soon finding the lines through the 200-odd bends on the circuit. After 21 tedious laps, the South African team have worked their way up to 43rd place overall. With Michael out on the track, Roddy has the task of keeping the press informed. Here, Roger McCleary conducts a live interview with Roddy on Radio 5.
The soft compound we felt was important in the start, in as much as it gave...
The young autograph hunters find the South African team quite unique amongst the predominantly European and British entry. The long days of the European summer means that the drivers have the benefit of extended daylight. With Wolfgang at the wheel, the advantage of local knowledge allows the team to gain even more places on the scoreboard before the darkness sets in. Wolfgang has done well during his stint at the wheel. The South African team now up to 30th overall. Driving at night on such a tricky circuit takes its toll on the drivers. Bright lights from the faster cars coming up behind instantly blinds the driver ahead, causing momentary loss of sight. Wolfgang reports that the gear selection between 3rd and 4th is becoming increasingly difficult, indicating possible gearbox problems. 10 o'clock and all is well. Roddy is back behind the wheel now on his second stint of driving. Still ahead, 18 hours of relentless racing. Toward the end of Roddy's shift, light rain starts to fall. The tyre crews are called into action. Heavy rain is falling at Adenauer on the far side of the track, and already the casualties pull into the pits. Rolf calls Roddy in for rain tyres. The Kadett pulls into the already chaotic pits, and the crew spring into action, but the damage is already done. Roddy, himself a victim of the wet track on slick tyres, has bent the backswing arm. As the mechanics set about the heavy-handed task of bending the hub straight, Mike Briggs sees their long and hard-earned 28th place slowly slip away. This repair cost the team 20 valuable minutes, but 151 survives the worst and is back in business with Mike at the wheel.
The car can be driven like this, it's just not easy to drive it. If you throw it in too hard, it wants to step the back up.
Yeah, but only on the right hand.
Only on the right hand, left hand is perfect.
Having already been in for a broken fan belt, Wolfgang returns to the pits, the gearbox now selecting more neutrals than gears. Fatigue, spurred on by the sheer frustration of being sidelined, sets in. Sparky and Steve throw themselves into the task at hand, the sheer urgency of the situation keeping them going. Again, the car is back in the race, now in 69th place. With dawn comes even more trouble as Roddy and Rolf stare anxiously down the pit apron. There's no sign of the Kadett and no response from the radio. A marshal report soon has the crew on their way to Brunchen, where they find the car sidelined and obviously out of the race. Wolfgang reports an apparent loss of oil pressure and an enormous bang from the engine compartment. Sparky and Steve confirm the worst. So sadly, with 14 hours down, but still 10 remaining in the race, the drivers and crew of car 151 move from the elusive scoreboard to become a statistic on the more common retirement list.
It's racing, you know, these things happen. And this is certainly a race of attrition, and I suppose it had to happen sometime. Things were going quite well until it did happen. We had a few ups and downs, but I think looking around now, with the pace car being out for so long, I think if we could have just got back to the pits, we would have been in with a chance. But it's not hurting yet, but I'm sure it's going to hurt in a while.
Roddy, did you enjoy it while it lasted?
Yeah, it was, wouldn't say it's enjoyable being out there in the rain and the dark, but it's really hard work and fairly awe-inspiring. We're doing our best, and we just couldn't overcome some of the mechanical hassles, and we're now sitting here in the pits all depressed, but we'll fight another day.
For others, though, the race continues, the pace unabated, as the growing need to survive the remaining few hours intensifies. The BMW M3 of Winkelhock, Nissan, Hane and Zopa continues to lead the race overall. Leading the Group N class and in 16th place is the Zexel Nissan Skyline. The South African team can but only watch from the sidelines, their disappointment still hurting deep inside. With only minutes remaining on the clock, the drama of long-distance racing brings the packed grandstand crowd to their feet. Winning becomes secondary as the survivors slowly cross the finishing line, themselves having beaten time, distance, and the fatigue of racing at breakneck speeds for 24 hours. Pandemonium breaks loose as Winkelhock glides his winning BMW into the waiting throng of supporters, the officials overwhelmed by the emotional fans as they themselves take to the track and surround the victorious car. Alone and far from the madding crowd, a dark cloud hangs heavily over the heads of two young men who, after all, just tried their best.